Morning all. Well done. I'll start like that, I think. Well done. We're going to start actually on our hands and knees. So if you're ready to go, I suppose I am too. Take a breath or two like that, just on your hands and knees. You might wag your tail just to limber up, just to loosen up. To feel into the body, mind, of course, which is one thing, body-mind. We'll come straight up from there into Adho Mukha Svanasana, the downward facing dog position. Okay. And feel through your back intuitively. And of course, that does rely on really getting the palms to be planted, to get yourself to arrive. Obviously, we've had some sort of night of it, of dreaming or, hopefully being asleep, but, that it's not the same as nothing, mostly. So padding your hands is a way of, yes, getting a better purchase, but also a better purchase in the sense of a connection with this by tuning out of that. So it's a practice, therefore, of purification. Walk your feet a little closer to each other, left towards right, right towards left, and raise up. Let's say the leg that's closest to me. I don't know how your screen's set up if you're watching on the screen, but either leg's okay. Bend and extend the top leg, play with it. You can also play with the bottom leg by lifting and descending the heel. The knee is going to, or the foot rather, is going to sweep forwards into the place of its own hand. On the exhale, you might need to do it in 2 or 3 movements. And once your foot is there, the knee lowers down. And it's a process of reiteration. So I think it can be useful to bring your fingertips leaning forwards and then use that time to lift and replace your back knee multiple times. And again, the purpose is to tune in, to, as it were, arrive, and then climb up onto your leg. Any tension in the knee, of course, is due to downward pressure. So instead, feel energy releasing upwardly. Intention is foundational, of course. Intention is communication. Raise the arms as well. Anjaneyasana. Lightly tone the tummy. So that's reiterative, meditative, respectful, listening, conversational. But reiterative and conversational. Let's keep with those two. It's a abhyasa. It's again and again and again. And it's conversational. It's yogic. Come forwards, lift the back knee, step the front foot back, and we're back in Adho Mukha Svanasana. Breathing through the nose, padding the paws of the dog, as it were, for a purpose. We never just arbitrarily take movement. We're doing it so that we feel it's effective in coming together, and we can feel that is expressed with the breath. The breath shows this coming together is happening because it expresses by becoming more open, which expresses a sense of relaxation connected with knowing, jnana. Walk the feet a little closer to each other and raise up the other leg to the one you raised before. And similarly, bend, extend, turn out, turn in, raise and descend the standing leg, heel. Breathe through your nose. And when you're ready, in however many steps you want or need, the foot comes forwards. Similarly, we'll lean forwards a bit as we land the knee, but lift and land it multiple times. That makes a difference in terms of how many of the fibers of the top of the inner thigh we've got into the stretch as well as the placement of the knee in terms of where the bursa, the fluid sacs in the knee, are placed. Climb up when you're ready, and we can feel for ourselves that an upward release, which is psychophysical, takes downwards pressure off the knee, stretches the groin, feels good. Raise the arms to follow through. Don't hold the breath, soften your eyes. Lightly tone the tummy. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. And staying with it, so keeping that light tone of the tummy throughout, that reiterative tone, we could say. Reiterative tone. And imagining, because imagination is language, imagining an upward release that you feel with the breath and the brain and the body. And then indeed, your intention through your imagination will express itself. Come down calmly when you're ready. Step back to Adho Mukha Svanasana. When you're ready, and breathe through your nose. Some of us find it useful to bend and extend the knees. Some of us find it useful to move the pelvis. And those things can be very helpful in terms of integrating into this, capital T for this. Let the shoulders come forwards above the wrists. So you're loading the wrists, but we still have conversational awareness, which is like, like a hug should be conversational, as well as sort of communication of words. Eye contact is conversational. So conversational means listening and responding to the way things are, which means some sort of surrender. Drop the knees. Bring the chest down, but keep the bum up. And chin on the floor as well. Breathe easy. Let the pelvis come down and press it into the floor. Lift up your chest. Tone the tummy. Your toes can be tucked under or pointing back, but we're toning the tummy. So it's a version of Bhujangasana. But I mentioned it twice, and to show you how important I think it is, I'll say tone the tummy again, which means draw it in and lift it up. So it should feel stretched, really kind of almost taut. Good, with toes tucked under, push to hands and knees, catch your breath. Take 2, 3, or 4 deep breaths. Lift your bum up again and pad the paws into the mat. Pad your hands into the mat. Again, let the breath become expressive. And we remember that what it's expressing is jnana, knowing. So jnana, or gnana if you're from Telugu, means knowing of this. And the reason the breath becomes expressive or open is because, it's what we feel like when we know something, as opposed to what we feel like when we don't know, when we're in samshaya, doubt. Walk the feet a little closer to each other. Come to the first leg again. It's a different posture. Raise it up and bend and extend and externally rotate and internally rotate. Raise and descend the heel of the standing leg if you want, or to the extent that's helpful in terms of tuning into this, which remember is purifying because it tunes out of that. This time with the knee bent, the knee's going to land on the floor directly behind its own wrist. And the foot will move in your own time diagonally across the body. And you can stretch your back leg back. Take your time. If you're doing this class in real time, which I know you are in the room, it's not a dream, and at home as well, I can see, but some people watch the recording later. But if you're doing it in real time, it's early morning, early rainy morning, early rainy January morning, early rainy January morning UK. So there's a few caveats. So that might mean you need a bit longer to massage into it, to let it absorb out of the knee and into the hip. Many people find instant breath opening when they come down to the forearms. Some find the converse is true, that if they lift up. And of course, it could be that both of those would be beneficial. The eyes are soft, the jaw is soft. Really, again, if you do lift up, stretch the tummy. If you are doing the sort of head down version, there may be subtle movement. It's all about the breath. It's all about the breath. Remember, if it flows, it indicates everything flows. If everything's flowing, it indicates there's a direct understanding of the way things are, which is interdependent, and you can only understand the interdependent when the mind is flowing, because the interdependent flows. A reason to awaken to the interdependent is so that clinging is negated. And it's natural then. It's the only way to realize sort of essence nature is naturally. You can't do it any other way. It can't be done any other way. If you're up, come down. If you're down, come up. Bring your back knee forwards. Come back to hands and knees. Catch a breath or two. Establish your hand position. It's ready to come up in a second to Adho Mukha Svanasana. So that means looking at the symmetry and the space of the hands. And then, if ready, lift up to Adho Mukha Svanasana. Great. Deep breaths, investigative movement, moving the pelvis left, moving the pelvis right. Finding a way through the back. Opening the inner armpit, opening the outer armpit, opening the under armpit. All of these are meditational, conversational. Meditation is conversation. You know, it's not that you meditate and then sort of try to ignore thoughts about the future, thoughts about the past, or try and deny them, or there's a relationship. One has to sort of be welcoming to thoughts about the future, thoughts about the past. So it's a sort of very polite conversation, like you're welcoming a guest. Similarly, with the other leg, of course, we bring the other leg up and bend, extend, and whatever else works. Externally rotating, internally rotating, multifarious movements. And if or when ready, turning back in, bending the knee, sweeping forwards to the back of the knee, moving the foot diagonally, stretching the other leg back, taking your time. Feeling into the hip, feeling into the buttock, massaging into both, either immediately coming down or coming up, or something between the two, or both. So instead of having to relate this to thinking, should I do this or should I do that? What's the group doing? What does the yoga book say? We relate it to breathing. The breath is either saying yes to the moment, or it's not, and obviously we want it to. Because yes to the moment is the field. The field is also called the goddess. And in tantric traditions, the goddess is, in the Shakta Tantra anyway, your way back towards the ground of being, who's represented by Shiva. So in other words, manifest reality, like the sensations in your buttocks or hips or wherever you feel it. If you open to it, because it is an expression of the field, it's a particle which is an expression of a field. We know particles' true identity is as a field. But because of our focus, reality appears to be particles. When we focus on this, it appears to be this. When we focus on that, it appears to be that. If you're up, come down. If you're down, come up. And back to the hands and knees position. Taking the hands sufficiently forwards of the shoulders to be ready for another Adho Mukha Svanasana. So lifting up when you're ready. Really getting those molecules of the palms to mesh in, knowing that this deeper conversation, the deeper the conversation or the deeper the engagement, the more purifying that will be. And having faith in purification, because purification essentially means opening. So what purification means simply is that we are not more focused on this than we are on that aspect of the living, dancing, moving moment. And that means our minds are open. In Mahayana Buddhism, they call that empty, the mind's empty. But what it means is it's not attaching to this more than that. So it's open. Sometimes we hear empty and we might understand it as like nothing, but that's not what it means. It's empty of grasping. Now, we're going to bring the hand, in the case of those of you in the room here anyway, the hand that's furthest away from me, in towards the middle point between the two hands, and then towards me, that is to say, towards me, and then turning onto the side of your foot, you should end up facing towards me. Take your top leg and bring it behind you, press into the floor, and you can do whatever you want, in terms of play. You can have your back heel lifted or down. You can bend the lower leg, knee, or keep it straight, or move between the two. You can let the top arm do what it wants. But it's, this is all within the context of it serving the breath. It serves the breath, and that's what we want. Okay, calmly coming back down and breathing deep, honest, easy. Padding the pores into a deeper weave. So this is Vasisthasana. Vasisthasana is the name of Vasishtha. Vasishtha, is the name of a sage, mentioned a lot in Buddhism and other yogic schools. The other hand obviously now comes to the middle of the two hands, and you're going to turn the other way. I'm going to skip around so I can still see y'all. Similarly, once you've turned, the top leg comes behind you. Great. And you breathe into it. You can do whatever feels, whatever triggers the expressive free flow feeling of breathing, of surrender, surrender, trust. And then back to Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog, when you're ready. Breathing easy, brain calm, jaw soft. Shoulders forwards. Feel the circumference of each wrist in calmness, so you can move to intuitively, it's the only way to do it, to intuitively balance between around the circumference of the wrist. We're going to lower down to the very popular amongst almost no people, Chaturanga Dandasana, which might be just laying flat on your belly for some of you. You can get away with it, especially on Zoom. And then we're going to push up with the legs off the floor, So that can be with the toes tucked under or the toes pointing back. And the tummy tone from pubis through chest. So not just to chest, but to chest, and then the chest lifts up to continue. When we lift the chest, it's from the bottom of the breastbone. Don't turn the heels in. Try not to tell yourself too many stories about your opinion of the pose. Lift your chest high. Back of the arms down towards the heel of the hands. Roll on the toes, back into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Deep breaths, calm brain, soft, relaxed eyes, expressively waking up, and understanding that waking up to this necessarily means letting go of that, and that necessarily means feeling that, So that is expectations about future, gripes and groans and moans, and about the past, or romantic nostalgia about the past, or whatever. Heels go back. Sometimes useful to experiment with that one leg at a time. And the groins correlate with that as by going up, the inner groins, that is. Back of the thighs feel like they go forwards. Front of the thighs respond by feeling like they go up. Gluteal creases feel like they deepen. Front groins feel like they open and move back. And the deep belly extends forwards. The head can release if you want, but don't collapse the shoulders. Great, walk the feet a little closer to each other. Again, be calm. Raise one of your legs, doesn't matter which one. Bend, extend. And similarly, we're going to bring the knee behind his own wrist, so coming forwards in your own time. Good job. And then moving the foot diagonally. And whether you feel coming down is the right thing, catching the breath that way, or coming up is the right thing, or both, that's fine either way. But it is about catching the breath. It's not about our opinion. It's just about catching the breath. Some deep breaths, soft eyes. And every time we practice, we have the openness of being able to respond to the way things are rather than the way we presume them or want them to be. That's what openness is about, being able to respond to the way things are rather than responding to the way we presume or want them to be. Responding to the way you presume things to be obviously won't have good results. Responding to the way you want things to be obviously won't have the appropriate results either. If you're up, come down. If you're down, come up. Tuck the back toes under, bring the back knee forwards, come to hands and knees, catch your breath, check your hands, spread them, breathe, intimate love for the moment, for the goddess, bhakti we could call it, which comes from a root, bhag, B-H-A-G, which means to give. So the word bhakti is from the root to give. The G has drifted to a K, bhakti. Both are articulated in the same part of the mouth anyway. Lift up the bum when you're ready. Armpits open, inner and outer. Breathing deep. Breathing deep. Coming down to regular kneeling. Some of you will definitely find it useful to use a block between the heels and buttocks. And that may vary. Maybe that you do in the morning and don't in the afternoon. So be ready to put a block or a blanket between the heels and buttocks, and maybe a rolled up blanket underneath the front ankles if your feet cramp or if it just feels uncomfortable there. And then breathe through your nose. Maybe there's a bit of rolling on the shins. Maybe there's a few expressive breaths, with perhaps a sigh-like exhale here and there. Shoulders drop down. Eyes become relaxed. Okay, now if you've got two blocks, that's what we want to use. You can do this with, you can make a platform with anything, books or whatever, as long as it's a level height. If you need it, a bigger platform, you can take a little space between the blocks. We're going to take it about the length of a block away from the end of our mat, the little platform, and we're going to fold the mat over. So a little platform of some kind is made for your feet. as we come into Supta Sukhasana. So that means crossing the legs on the support. Great. And fingers face forwards. By the way, I should say that you can use a blanket underneath your front shins, opening it up loose and putting it underneath there if you need to. Buttocks tuck under towards the lift 2 or 3 or 4 times. And then you lower yourself down to your elbows, tuck under again, and then down all the way. Breathing through the nose. And then I suggest arms up and a bit of movement of the arms, left and right. So that as you move the arms, the shoulder blades loosen the tissue around the shoulder blades. So the middle and upper sections of the trapezius. Breath comes and goes very naturally. Eyes are soft, brain is soft, throat is soft. And there's a sense of investigation, which is sort of like you might investigate a person with a conversation and with eye contact and with touch. 2 people might investigate each other in various ways like that. And through that investigation, one may become closer. Perhaps the conversation goes deep, or the hug absorbs you, or whatever it is. And then both people are in the field if the conversation goes deep enough. So here it's the same, the investigation is into the sensations of the body and their relationship with the breath and the mind. So there's sort of, the conversation is 4 ways, like 4 people merging into a deeper and deeper conversation. What are the 4? Body, with the brain, with the breath, with the universe as we perceive it. So they're all having a conversation that goes deeper and deeper, and eventually takes all 4 into the field, which is not anything one can reach by reaching out in any way. But simply through breath and trust and giving, which is part of trust. Change the cross of your legs when you're ready, so the other one goes in front. I quite like to get my hands forwards and just scoot the top of the buttock flesh near the posterior superior iliac spine, down towards the buttocks. The posterior superior iliac spine is the bony crest essentially on the top back pelvis. And then moving the arms, breathing through, feeling into it. That's how we begin the conversations. And everything's nudging into it, or snuggling, you could even say, into everything else, disappearing into everything else. Body into the breath. Breath into the body, brain into the breath. Brain here means thoughts, ideas, opinions, worries, expectations. Desires. We're not preferencing any of these things. So, for example, the inner thighs, adductors, brevis longus, magnus, minimus, pectineus, and gracilis, that those inner thigh muscles are part of the breath here and now. And that's also absolutely part of the mind. In other words, the breath can't release the body without the mind also coming along. And when the mind is asked to release, sometimes we're not aware that it's being asked, and sometimes we're not aware that it can release. But if it's being asked to release, it can. Okay, super duper. Legs back together, feet on your left, arms can come forwards. Extend up a leg, whichever one you want, dorsiplantar flex, etc. And any other movement you want. So that's why I put the etc. in. So circling, half circling, whatever works. Heel in, toes out, so the leg turns out, and then bend at the knee, cross that leg over the other leg. Go beyond the lateral malleolus, the outer ankle. Lift the foot that's on the floor off the floor. Plunge through the gap between the legs and interlace around your far shin. Bring your head back down, but make sure your neck is long. That's it. And then have a roll about. Right, so you might roll left, you might roll right, you might roll a long way, you might roll a small way. You might roll a small way and then to a long way. But you're looking for those moments that are rich enough to eat you. And that's how spontaneous merging with the field and consequently the spontaneous dropping into essence nature occurs many times in a human life when something's so rich that you forget to run your programs for a moment. You know, it sort of overwhelms the patterns, the programs. And this is why in the Tantra they say use a thorn to remove a thorn. In Patanjali, he says use a samskara to remove a samskara. And in early Buddhism, they say use a small piece of wood to remove a bigger piece of wood. So if you find something rich enough, it will just derail our sort of blinkered chugging along with our programs. It will just derail that temporarily. We often out of habit and get back on the rails, and this is not in a positive sense. Back on the rails just means sort of chugging on in a sort of programmed, reactive way. But we can recognize these moments and we can create them too. That's what we're doing in yoga classes, creating these moments of richness. Let's release and create another moment of richness on the other side after a couple of deep breaths. So you can rest your hands on your ribs or your upper chest, or just take some deep breaths and enjoy and surrender, soften, relax. If you're ready, raise up the other leg and dorsiplantar, 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 the foot, half circle, circle, etc. Turning the leg out, heel in, cross that leg over the other. Go beyond the outer ankle, keep the foot dorsiflexed and lift the foot that's on the floor, off the floor, plunging through the gap between the legs, interlacing and rolling about. When you put the head back down, try to make sure you keep the neck long, because for many, maybe even for most, the neck tends to shorten. Keep the jaw soft, keep the eyes soft, keep the brain soft. And look for sensations that are rich to the level that it can and does knock the samskaras out, like a small piece of wood knocking a larger piece of wood out. This is what the Buddha, one of the pieces of advice he uses in the Pali Sutta, the removing of distracting thoughts, it's called, or the removal of distracting thoughts. Don't hold the breath, that's crucial, you let it go. And remember, you won't be able to let go of the breath without being, letting go of any views, thought structures, anticipations, grudges that you might also be holding. Sometimes we're also holding problems with the rather peculiar idea that, you know, I have to solve this problem before I let it go. I have to make it better. But actually, if you let it go, you don't need to solve it. It's, you know, it's gone. And sometimes we, you know, instead of letting go of a problem, we hold on to it. But if you let go of it, that's solved. You know? I'll let go of it when I've solved it. Well, that never happens, or rarely happens. Hopefully you're finding some really rich moments. Great, okay, well done. Release, place your foot back down. Place your hands underneath your head, fingers interlaced. Take a breath, flex up your hips, lift up your feet, in other words. Let the lower back become intimate with the floor, and lift up your head. And that will increase the intimacy of the lower back and the floor. Breathe into that, because that's the piece of wood that's knocking a larger piece of wood out. That's, in other words, challenging the habituations in the body that are also simultaneously in the mind, simultaneously in the breath, simultaneously in our universe. The universe appears the way we think it is. So Descartes was at least a little bit right. Okay, extend one leg out. It doesn't have to be as low as 45 degrees. It's early in the year, and so keeping it a little gentle. So find a position where it's, you know, a bit of tone on the tummy, but not too strong. And then bring it back and do the same with the other. Good job, everyone. Breathe through your nose if you can. Retract that one. Let's do one more each leg, that is to say. Again, keep the lower back close to the floor. It can increase the abdominal tone if that's of interest to you by lifting the head a bit more, but don't yank on the neck. Flex that back and do the same on the other side if you're ready. Again, similarly, you might want to increase the tone, which is, in other words, is increasing the size or the sort of effectiveness of the piece of wood that we're using to knock another piece of wood out, metaphorically. Retract that. Bring your head down. Bring the feet down. Take deep breaths. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Really, great opportunity. Really change your whole day, just by taking a few deep breaths. By sort of trusting in, we have a choice. We trust in emptiness, or we trust in sort of being a loaded gun. I'm ready for the world. I'm ready for such and such a person to be as difficult as they were yesterday. I'm ready for someone else to be as charming as they were yesterday. But reality is a dance, and there are no people on an ultimate level. There's just the field. So what we often call me, myself, and I is a part of the field, which is beautiful. And once we see that, then we might fall into the true referent of I am, sometimes called the Purusha, the person, indicating the sort of essence person, by letting this all flow. Okay, lift up your feet, lift up your head. Open the angle at the back of the knees, something like 90 degrees. Opposites to opposites. So we're going to turn towards the shrine side of the room, towards the Tara shrine. Opposite knee towards opposite elbow. And then, of course, we'll do the same the other way. Opposite knee to opposite elbow. We're going to do that 3 times on each leg, total of 6. So the timing is your own. Opposite knee to opposite elbow. And once you've completed your total of 6, well done, then you'll rest your head, rest your feet, and take, no doubt, a very deep breath in. With the deep breath out, like a sigh, I hope, because sighs are like yes, they like give. When you get in and you sigh, there's a sense of like, I give to this, I let go of that. And that's the same thing, isn't it? Give to this, let go of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing right about that. It's just that You know, you only ever have to deal with this. Now bring your feet as close to your bum as you can, and your bum as close to your feet as you can. So walk up your blocks and then lift up your pelvis. Just lift up your bum. Your hands are still underneath your head, by the way. You can shake the pelvis. Many people find that useful to loosen the lower back muscles. You can bounce the pelvis for similar reasons. You can sway, swoop, whatever, or any combination thereof. It doesn't matter what you do, but only what it's doing for you. So it should be loosening the lower back. And again, getting into it requests that we get into it with our breath. Requests that we get into it with our minds. Which means being willing to just, let fall what can fall, let shed what can shed. Just let it shed, Like those trees in London, I don't know what they're called actually, but they're well known for being trees that shed their barks, and in that way that they can cope with the pollution of London because they keep shedding it. Okay, coming down, nice and easy when you're ready. Then a deep breath in, followed by the classic deep breath out. Always follows, doesn't it, hopefully? Well, it does always follow. And then release your hands from behind your head and roll over. Bringing yourself up from the side and opening up your mat. Putting your blocks to one side. Stretching out your legs. Hands behind the head. Roll back. And raise up. So the toes come level with the eyes. Almost no one, I think, practices this one at home unless asked. So toes level with the eyes. Let it be natural. Let it be buoyant. And then bend the knees and hug the legs and lift the lower back without haste and make it light. So lighten the lumbar. Lighten the lumbar. Breathing through the nose if you can, moving if it's helpful, which I think it's likely it could be. Jaw soft, eyes soft. So any movement, of course, we know hydrates the myofascia, we know warms the various tissues, which also promotes fluidity, helps blood and lymph to flow, and so it assists with the immune system. Jaw soft, eyes soft. Now that, of course, was the half boat, and I know you're thinking, please, 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 please. When I do the full boat, yes. Seeing as you begged so much, yes. Now you can do it with knees bent if you need to, and that's fine, or legs straight, but you just lean the body back by 30 degrees, raise the legs up by 60 degrees. So the knees bent still mean that the thighs are up by 60 degrees, which is fine. As long as the thighs are up by 60 degrees, the knees can be where they like. And then arms forwards, breathing through the nose. I can see why you beg to do it now. Very popular. And let it have movement. Let it be, have investigative, responsive, conversational awareness going on. Super. Okay, come down, cross your legs. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. Make sure there's a gap between the legs and pelvis. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. Make sure there's a gap between the legs and pelvis. Palms up. Breathing through the nose, shoulders down. Jaw soft. Inhaling, lifting from both inner groins on the inhale. Exhaling, turning towards the Buddha side of the room or the shrine side of the room. That's it. One hand cupped on the floor behind. The other pressing into the thigh. Some people like to turn the palm out. Some people prefer it in. It has a different effect on the mind and also on the anatomy.
And I would say that they both have benefits, depending on your needs. One thing we want to avoid is the knee of the leg you're pressing into lifting up either because the inner thigh is gripping or because you're pulling on the knee. Because that would indicate either way an attitude of upadana, reaching out. But the way one finds the field is through the middle, through the center. So you don't reach out, you reach in, as it were. Inhale, lift, and keep lifting and turning and all the way around the other way. Breathing through your nose if you can. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Could be quite an interesting exercise to tune in on the spine between the sitting bones. So again, that demands or requests strongly of us and that we let go. One can't both tune in on the spine between the sitting bones and cling on to projections about the future, which will do you no good, because the future will always be different to what you've imagined. Even if you think you've imagined every scenario, you've imagined 20, but it'd be the 21st that you didn't imagine that will happen. Subtle changes of nuance or completely different to what you expect. It's just not what you think. Just is never going to be what you think. Even if you're a psychic, psychics can't predict the detail like that, Okay, back to the center, palms up. Shoulders down, breathing through your nose. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. Give your fingers a wiggle if you want, or a wiglet. Pretty much the same thing, I just like saying wiglet. Change the cross of the legs. When you're ready, again, make sure there's a gap. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. If you happen to have a drink with CBD in it, drink from it now. It's only me. It's delicious. And palms up, breathing through the nose, light and buoyant attitude means a light and buoyant body. So attitude doesn't mean that the content of consciousness is, what you want it to be. In the Tantra, everything is pure. So, in the sort of Vedic tradition, some things are pure and some things are not. But in certainly in the non-dual Shaiva Tantra, described by Utpaladeva and Abhinavagupta and so on, then everything in that philosophy is seen as pure. So this is what's called the Tantra Shastra. There are the Tantras, and then there's the Tantra Shastra, which is the sort of philosophical spin on the early Tantras. So in other words, there's nothing you need to reach out for or get rid of. All the content of consciousness is fine. So when we talk about being light, it's around whatever's in consciousness. It's like, light around whatever's in consciousness. It can be, grumpy or, or joyful or, upset or, relaxed. Inhale, we're going to turn away from the shrine on the inhale. So inhale, lift and turn away from the shrine. Similarly, it's Parivrita Sukhasana. Breathing through the nose with soft eyes. And again, similarly, we're making sure we don't tense up the inner thighs. And so the buttocks are relaxed. That absence of tensing up indicates that at least we're keeping in check the habitual tendencies to reach out. Just keeping them in check. Lift and keep lifting, turn and keep turning, turning towards the shrine side of the room. Breathing through the nose, eyes soft, brain soft, buttocks relaxed. Empty of grasping, aparigraha. Graha means to grasp. Apari means not towards grasping. Okay, back to the center, palms up. Breathe through the nose, give your fingers a wiggle or a wiglet. Couldn't resist it again. And then stretch your legs out. Give yourself a decent energy bath, a proper rub down of whatever you can. So buttocks, thighs, chest, face, everything. Make sure it's, a thorough rub down and it really does spread the energy. When you feel like you're feeling a bit more zingy and vavavumi, then we're going to take one leg and let it go super soft, take hold of it, put the foot in the crook of the opposite elbow, but take time, put no strain on your knee at all. So that all that means is take time if you need to. And then listen and respond. Sometimes the knee feels better if the foot is up, further up. Sometimes it feels better if it's further out, whatever. But make sure there's no dukkha in the knee. Dukkha, bad space from the verb root dus. You get dukkha. Dus just means bad. It's a verb root. And just playing with it, moving left, moving right, moving forward, moving back. Seeing if you can find, as we've been doing throughout the class, sensations that are rich enough to kind of, we could say it blows my mind, some people use that kind of expression when they eat something and it's like, God, it blew my mind, that was so good, or, blew my mind, that show is so beautiful, or whatever. That's, an expression that points to richness being rich enough. Perhaps the full sentence would be, it blew my mind out of its habitual tendencies into full expansion. Well, people don't tend to say that. Okay, well done. Nice and easy, nice and slow. Bring that leg back. Take a breath or two, another little rub down. Make it fairly vigorous, especially the lower back. And then when you're ready, second leg of the journey, as it were, foot into the crook of the elbow, again with due care around the knee. There's no tightness or sharp sensations in the joint. One thing you can do to help is make sure your foot doesn't twist like that. Don't twist your foot. And don't let it be low and twisted and then pull it in. Keep it from twisting. Keep it a little higher if you can. It will go into the hip more, but the knee less, which is what we want. And then, not just holding it in position, but looking for sensations that would cause you, if you were the kind of person who expressed themselves in this way, to say, it blew my mind. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Being very sort of strict about not having discomfort in the knee. Even things like, stretching your toes can help. Really good. Okay. Slow and easy. Release and extend. Place your hands on the floor behind you, fingers face forwards. Just nudge the bum forwards a bit and bend the legs. We're going to lightly tone the tummy in a wave, so it's going to go in and then the chest will pull up. So tummy in, chest up, and then following that line, as the chest goes up, the head will move with it and the chest will move with the head. So that's a little dress rehearsal. Let's do another dress rehearsal. Tummy in, do it together. Tummy in, chest up, head back. And as the head's moving back, the chest is coming with it, right? That's very central to what we're doing. The head's coming with it. Okay, now let's do the whole thing by lifting the pelvis up. So when you're ready, pelvis up, pelvis forwards, up and over, and here's the tummy, chest, head. And the chest and head together. If the head's tipping over, which, we can allow that, we should allow that, because it's totally fine if you're bringing your chest with you. Of course, that takes commitment. You can let your pelvis move as well, left, right, forwards, backwards. And then coming down, head and chest come together. Well done. Take a breath, cross your legs, draw the buttock flesh out and back. Take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 deep breaths. Palms facing up, breathing through the nose, eyes soft, hands to the heart. We've got a beautiful green Tara shrine here today. And so we're going to place green Tara in our hearts. Green Tara is connected with staying in your center during all your actions, connected with compassion, meditation in action, connected with helping people to cross over, whatever you need to cross over from the particle to the field. And so her bija, which is like her in a zip file, which you place in your heart. In other words, you visualize this bija in your heart as you chant it, is Tom, T-A-M, straight line across the A, dot under the M. So that's pronounced like tongue. Let's chant that, imagining it in the heart, perhaps imagining green light, that it's made of green light or surrounded by green light, as we do it 3 times. Take a deep breath in, inhale. Ta. 2 more. Ta. Last one. Ta. Remember, you're placing that in the heart, so even after you've stopped or finished the last one, it's still there in the heart. And remember, it's there to help you cross over from the particle to the field throughout your day today, to stay in the field and to act from the heart, to not come out of the heart in any actions. Release the hands. We've got a couple of minutes to lay flat on our backs. You might want to put a bolster or some support under the knees. You certainly probably would like to put a blanket over yourself or socks on, etc. We're going to lay flat on our backs. Shoulder blades scooted under the body.
jaw soft. And even though we're only going to lay for a couple of minutes, or even just a minute more, it's a great opportunity to feel what it's like to totally and utterly release everything all at once. And what we'll feel is the total expansion and spontaneous wisdom of the ground of being, which Tara is a representative of. From that ground, from that completely expanded experience, without disconnecting from that, staying connected to that, feel into the body. You can wiggle your toes, fingers. You could stretch out in ways that are spontaneous, natural. And bending the legs, placing the feet on the floor. Taking a couple of deep breaths. And when ready, rolling onto your side, facing away from the shrine if you're in the shrine room here at the Buddhist Center, or to your left at home. Roll again when you're ready. And finally, when you're ready, coming up from the side, nice and easy. May the merit gained in our acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of absolutely all beings. Om. Thanks, Roomers. Thanks, Zoomers. Really appreciate your time. Lovely to see you.
Thank you, Jim.
And see you real soon. Try and be good today. I know you're going to try, but you know how it goes. Just have a go anyway. Love you loads. Ciao. Ciao. Thanks, Gary.